Governor Sherrill's spending plan includes billions in funding to offset Medicaid cuts that New Jersey's facing from the federal government. There is a fund created by Congress that restores a fraction of those losses, but New Jersey gets the least amount of any state. Here to break down why is our Washington, D.C. correspondent, Ben Hulac. Ben, great to talk to you. Nationally, about $1 trillion was cut from Medicaid. There's some discrepancy in terms of the numbers of what we've seen that New Jersey has lost, but what did you get from the Department of Human Services here in the state?
So their best ballpark figure is that because of this federal law that became law last summer, New Jersey will lose $3.3 billion annually in Medicaid cuts. And that's really just a blow that the state cannot make up on its own. No state, even enormous states, Texas, California, New York, cannot cover that sort of loss. And what Congress did is they created, driven by some rural Republicans in the Senate who were worried about Medicaid cuts, they created a rural health care fund. And New Jersey is getting some of that money, like every state, but they are dead last in the amount they will be getting back. So New Jersey as a state this year will get about $147 million. That is a pittance compared to the overall cuts heading New Jersey's way.
I'm curious why rural communities only. Does this just have to do with which legislators sponsored this, really? Is that what that's about?
Pretty much. Every state got, all 50 states got out of half of the fund. There was one half that was divided evenly among all 50 states. The other half was divvied up by according to a rural sort of data metric set that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, which is controlling this fund, made up basically on its own. So what happened is Lisa Murkowski in particular, she's a Republican from Alaska, massive state, rural state, was worried about the overall language in this bill before it became law last summer. And she held out and got some concessions, chief of which was this fund. So not surprisingly, Alaska gets a high number. I think they're number 2 overall in the number of all states that will receive funding from this new rural healthcare fund. So
you did reach out though, right, and ask why New Jersey got the amount that it was given. Did you get a clear answer on how that decision was made?
No, I did reach out, of course, to CMS, and they didn't want to comment on the record. They provided really a technical answer on background, which means for those who don't do this reporting work, means that they don't want a name attached to it. So basically CMS sort of moved some data around and doled out money accordingly. Now, this money will be flowing out over several years to come. So this isn't the only money New Jersey will be getting. But I'd also point out Rhode Island and Connecticut, also very small states, are at the bottom of this list too. So it does seem to be a clear pattern. Small states, big states.
Yeah. Premiums rose by about 16% since the funding began to drop off in January. What does that mean in terms of enrollment here in New Jersey, kind of contributing to those added costs of healthcare here in the state?
Right. This is sort of a separate but related issue. This is enrollment under the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. What happened at the end of 2025 was Congress did not renew tax subsidies for the ACA that had come in during COVID several years ago and then subsequently been renewed by Congress during the Biden administration. And there wasn't a deal to be had. Congress let them lapse, and in turn, premiums are going up massively across the country. New Jersey at 16% is not as high as some states, but this is also an average. So some people within New Jersey who are on the ACA certainly have seen their premiums higher, some lower. And at this point, there likely isn't a funding patch Congress could work on right now and retroactively install these credits.
We know somewhere between 300 to 350,000 have dropped off. Is that correct?
The Department of Banking and Insurance, which oversees this, really looks at the numbers and takes a hard look at them within the state, has said generically tens of thousands. But that estimate is likely low. It's relatively early still in the year, and more people will likely drop off as the
And
year goes on.
I should have said likely to drop off. I think I misspoke when I said that. Let's shift gears. Department of Homeland Security right now is still unfunded. We are seeing the effects that we've seen time and time again whenever there's an impasse in passing a spending bill. This one specifically focused on DHS, but it's playing out in the airports. Just add some color into what's happening behind the scenes in Congress.
There is no deal in sight. We are about a month into this partial government shutdown. This is the one funding bill out of all 12 federal funding bills that Congress cannot get over the finish line. Basically, this comes down to a massive difference in opinion and approach from Democrats and Republicans, especially in the Senate. Congress has to get through the Senate to pass this. And right now, Democrats in the Senate are using their leverage on funding bills to say, we're not going to fund DHS because we don't want to give another penny to ICE and CBP. Those are the two chief immigration and deportation agencies within the broader DHS family. So they're fine with funding TSA and cybersecurity, Coast Guard, all agencies within DHS, but they don't want more funding for immigration detention. And Republicans are using this leverage, saying, hey, let's fix the problems of long TSA lines. Let's not let funding for national defense and homeland security lapse. Right now, there's an interesting wrinkle here. The man nominated to lead this department has a confirmation hearing next week, and Senator Andy Kim will surely have some questions for him. He's on the committee that oversees that nomination.
But this certainly does seem to be a pressure point that has brought folks to the table in the past. We'll have to see if there's any movement in any of those future discussions. But you also recently wrote about the fact that ICE is expanding its footprint here along the East Coast. What have you seen in terms of the hiring of more individuals under ICE?
Yeah, I've been looking through a lot of federal contracts and trying to get a sense of where money is going and I guess sort of open spaces within the DHS network. Nationwide, DHS is building a deportation apparatus, massive hubs of ICE detention centers, some for families, some for single individuals, which I think is a point that often gets overlooked. And then within New Jersey and up and down the eastern seaboard, DHS is looking to sign a new contract for armed guards and unarmed guards, for that matter, to transport people they've detained basically nonstop, 24/7, under lock and key, to deportation hearings, to medical appointments. And interestingly, in the contract that the description, the bid, I should say, for this contract, they make a point, DHS makes a point to prevent public contact, keep this work out of the eyes of the public. So obviously that perked my eyes up. But there are so many moving parts here. There is an ICE detention warehouse, as we reported on, in
Roxbury.
Roxbury, thank you. And we still don't have a clear picture of what the Trump administration might do with the Joint Base Wire-Dix Lakehurst down in South Jersey. That last year had a green light to be used to detain and deport immigrants as well.
Yeah. That's all the time we have. We have to leave it there. But thank you, Ben Hulac, for us down in Washington, D.C. Appreciate it.
Of course.